Hello, I'm Finola Burke from Research as a Service, and today we're focusing on Geospatial Data Solutions Group, Pointerra, ASX ticker 3DP. I have with me Ian Olson, the CEO and co-founder of Pointerra. Thanks for joining me, Ian.
Pleasure, Finola. Great to be with you again.
And that Pointerra surpassed ACV, or annual contract value, of 20 million US for the first time at the end of October 2022, which in itself is a real milestone for the group. You've seen an extension of contracts by existing clients in the energy utility sector and added new clients in mining, oil and gas, and transport. Has there been any change in customer urgency for geospatial analytics solutions?
Change in urgency. I guess what characterises the space, Finola, with remote sensing data, whether it's imagery or lidar, so 2D or 3D, is it's not cheap to acquire. One of our customers spends 35 million US per annum acquiring remote sensing data just so they can interpret it to figure out the condition of their asset, of the thing they care about. And prior to us coming along, it was taking them 6 to 12 months to get insight and figure out what the data meant. So our business, we simplify a really complex process of interpreting that data. And so when inflation's hitting every part of the world and every sector, and costs are rising, people are trying to look at ways to do the same with less. And one of the ways that we help people who are trying to deal with inflationary pressures in their business is by ripping cost out of their asset management program. So we are seeing a heightened sense of urgency. Plus the hardware that generates the data is getting cheaper, more available, it's getting faster, but it's producing bigger and bigger files in terms of the size and complexity and density of the data. So a solution like Pointerra becomes even more important when you can't rely on 100 people in a room sat at desktop computers interpreting the data, and you need the answers fast. We're back with FPL right now down in Florida. The latest Hurricane Nicole, is rolling in at the moment. It's not as big a storm as Hurricane Ian, which we helped them with earlier in October. And we're part of their emergency response program because we can turn the data around really fast and tell them what's changed in the network when the storm's blown over. I mean, it probably sounds self-evident that when the storm blows stuff over, but when you're trying to send 10,000 bucket crews in to restore power, you kind of need to know where to go. And they've got eyes on quickly from satellites and people like Nearmap flying planes, but the accuracy you get from 3D data from lidar, if you can get it fast enough, gives you way more value. And so we've become embedded in that storm response solution for them, which is fantastic.
And you've also been chosen by FPL for its pole hardening program. Can you talk a little bit about that and the opportunity that represents for you?
Sure. So pole hardening is an American term for, which sounds a bit odd to the Australian individual, is their term for figuring out the condition of a pole. So the thing in the street outside your house that's got wires strung from it. It's conditioned in relation to its fit for purpose. Its engineering disposition. Is the wood rotting? Is the metal rusting? Is it leaning? Is it going to fall over? Is there infrastructure that's being built too close to it? And if you're dealing at a pole level, it's pretty easy to walk up to a pole and take a picture and figure out what's wrong with it or look at it. But when you've got millions of poles in your network and you need each year, at least once a year, to figure out what's wrong with that individual pole, and in fact all of them, you need a way to gain insight at scale and really quickly and at a very low cost about the condition of that network. So we're deployed with FPL. We're also deploying with Entergy down in Louisiana, and they've got these capex programs, pole hardening. They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars strengthening their network, making it more resilient to weather events. And they spend a chunk of money up front generating and acquiring remote sensing data and then paying people like us to interpret it so they can figure out how to optimize that capex, that sustaining capex spend.
You also flagged in your recent quarterly, Ian, that Pointerra will extend its North American utility sales strategy to smaller utility cooperatives. What's the opportunity with that strategic move?
Yeah, so the US in regional and country areas have a cooperative approach to to the provision of utilities, so telco, data, and power. And so the communities own and operate the asset. As you can imagine, as a cooperative, they're a not-for-profit, so they all look to generate a small surplus enough to invest in sustaining capex. So they're very price sensitive, and the biggest impediment to them understanding the condition of their network, which is obviously a lot smaller in geographic area, is acquiring data. And so we've been able to access US government data that's freely available, but also partner with other data capture companies to bring a shrink wrap solution to that sector. So whereas the investor-owned utilities that are listed on the stock exchanges have market caps north of $10 or $20 billion, and there's about 100 of them in North America that we're targeting, there's a couple of thousand of these co-ops. Some are quite large, as big as half a state, but a lot of them are quite small. They're at county level, and they can use a solution like ours and would pay us to if they had the data, but they didn't have the data. They couldn't afford the data programmatically. It's just not cost effective for them. So we've been able to work with other people that own data in the private, it's in the public marketplace, and also private contractors to bring solutions to bear that's sort of around the 10 to 20 grand a year spend. Which if you extrapolate out across a couple of thousand utilities, ends up being quite a big number. Yeah. So looking at making our solution as scalable for a utility as it is for an engineering firm, where our smallest engineering firm pays us $500 a month, and our largest engineering firm pays us north of $100,000 a month. And that's dictated to that price differential is dictated by users and the complexity of the amount of data and the analytics stack that we deploy for them.
And for the past couple of quarters, you've mentioned progress with the partnership with Velocity to develop and implement a geospatial solution for autonomous vehicles in warehouse and distribution logistics. Now, that partnership's expanded to, I think, 10 sites with the prospect, I think you've flagged 200, growing pretty quickly. What does it mean?
So the great thing about our platform, particularly at Pointerra 3D Land, is that we solve across a whole bunch of verticals, whether it's surveying, mapping, AEC, facilities management, mining, oil and gas, power and water utilities, road and rail transport, defence intelligence, etc. Pointerra 3D Core solves a really consistent common problem across those sectors. And we were approached by Velocity, who are Amazon's principal contractor to their technology solutions in their facilities management in their distribution centres, to help them figure out how to use. They were using a lot of live camera feeds and a lot of imagery to try and basically, when a truck crosses the threshold into a Amazon or any other distribution center, you need to keep people out of the way, and in the future the vehicles actually won't have drivers. So if you're going to do that, you need real precision and understanding of the space you're working in, so that people so that vehicles can move without bumping into each other, and of course without running people over. So we've been working on some proofs of concept for the last year with Velocity, and that we think that'll expand out to a couple of hundred sites in the next sort of 3 to 6 months, and then ultimately, if we're successful with them, across Amazon's network of distribution centers regionally and globally. So it's a pretty exciting opportunity, but obviously a long way off. But with that, and that facilities management solution is something that that we'll be able to then deploy into other FM organisations.
Well, Ian, I'm looking forward to catching up with you again through the course of FY23 to check out Pointerra's progress. Thanks for joining us today.
Pleasure. Appreciate your time, Finola, and look forward to keeping your listeners and readers appraised of how we're travelling.
Thank you.